have never advocated for secession, and I never will. So says the Republican governor of Texas, Rick Perry, in an op-ed in the Austin American-Statesman this weekend. Can you imagine, in this day and age, in the 21st century, a governor of an American state having to defend himself against a charge like that? Why would anyone ever even think about alleging that Rick Perry had advocated secession?
We think it's time to draw the line in the sand and tell Washington that no longer are we going to accept their oppressive hand in the state of Texas. There is a point in time where you stand up and say enough is enough, and I think Americans and Texans especially have reached that point.
Texans have reached that point of saying enough is enough to America. Anything you want to add to your I never advocated secession defense, Governor?
Texas is a unique place. When we came in the Union in 1845, one of the issues was that we would be able to leave if we decided to do that. We got a great Union. There's absolutely no reason to dissolve it. But if Washington continues to thumb their nose at the American people, you know, who knows what might come of it?
Who knows what might come of that? I know what might come of that. You might get accused of advocating secession, Governor. We're joined now by Wayne Slater, senior political reporter for the Dallas Morning News. Mr. Slater, thanks very much for joining us.
Great to be with you, Rachel.
So he hasn't exactly denounced secession, and in some cases he seems to be raising it as an actual option. Is he parsing here?
He absolutely is parsing here. Look, after those tea parties, those protest tea parties, he was talking very sympathetically about all those who were calling for secession. I was at one of the tea parties with the governor. People were shouting, secede, secede. These were the people, the populist, the conservative part of the Republican base that he wants to appeal to, that he was clearly trying to appeal to. So he liked to talk about secession, but a funny thing happened on the way to the appeal to the populist wing of the party. And that's that it's good if they're talking about you, but it's not good if they're making fun of you. And late night hosts, comedians, some folks in the Beltway, and commentators like Rachel Maddow have basically talked about him in a way that he's not so much Jefferson Davis as a joke.
So you're saying this is working for him in Texas, is particularly working for him with Republican primary voters. It just may not be working with him if he has broader aspirations, or maybe even for the general election in Texas?
That's really the problem. You've got your finger on it. His people believe that in the primary next March against Kay Bailey Hutchison, a more moderate candidate, that this call to social conservatives on abortion, on prayer, on secession, on states' rights will pay dividends. But then when he runs the general election, that could be a problem. And more to the point, he really has seen, I think folks have seen outside of Texas, a kind of aspect, a personality, a caricature of Rick Perry that doesn't bode well for him if he wants to be a national candidate. So I think that's what he's trying to do, and dial back and say, you know, I never really proposed secession. I'm really a serious guy.
Well, when he gets into the sort of details about it, I love how he talks about how Texas electing to join the Union in the mid-1800s, right? Like, it was something that we might or might not have done. Maybe it would have worked out better if we hadn't. The Texas Constitution doesn't actually grant the state of Texas the right to secede. Even the Texas Secede organization, the official secessionist organization in the Lone Star State, acknowledges that. So why has the option of secession remained such a romantic notion for Texans in particular?
Yeah, I think when you say the word secede in Texas, talk about states' rights, which is freighted with other problems in terms of our more recent history in the South. When you talk about that, especially secession, it appeals to the mythology, this sort of instinct, the romantic notion that we are rugged individualists in this state. It plays to those, not only the families who have lived here for years, but people who've come to move to Texas and see themselves as part of this rugged individualist. What people like is the idea that we're rugged, we're individuals. The idea of secession, we could leave if we wanted because we used to be a nation. At the same time, we don't need the federal government. At the same time, of course, we're taking billions of dollars in federal money.
Wayne, at the top of the show tonight, we had Robert Draper here, who's got a piece in GQ right now that's all about Donald Rumsfeld. And there's a great Rick Perry anecdote in it, in which he's not a main player, he's a bit player, but he essentially says that he was ready to cede control of the Texas National Guard to the federal government in the response to Hurricane Rita. Draper brings up that anecdote to whack Donald Rumsfeld with it. Is that going to whack Rick Perry ultimately as well?
It's not helpful at all.
Yeah.
When you're talking about how bad the federal government is, and then you're asking for money, and in this case, want to turn over the National Guard to the feds, that's the kind of thing that plays badly among the base.
Wayne Slater, senior political reporter for the Dallas Morning News. Thank you so much for joining us, Wayne. It's always great to see you.
It's great to be with you.